Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Licence Subcommittee for Thursday, 21st of February, 2019. First of all, we are live on YouTube, Hillingdon channel. You'll only be seen and heard if you press on and press off with your microphones. Only film this way. We're not expecting a fire alarm. If it does go off, it's a real thing. So if you'd like to leave by the way you came in or onto our right, and me outside the Miller's Tap, which is apt for a licensing meeting. Mobile phones, if you could please switch them off, that'd be great, especially my member colleagues. We tend to leave them on and they go off. Before moving to the agenda, let me introduce myself. My name is Councillor Roy Chamdell. I'm the chairman of the meeting. Other councillors here who will be making a decision with myself, we have Councillor Alan Kaufman and Councillor John Oswell. I'm also assisted by my legal advisor, Kerry Monroe, who will ensure that decisions that we make are just and correct. And from Democratic Services, to make sure, who'll be taking the minutes and make sure I follow procedure, is Luke Taylor. Right, we've got other people here as well. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, who you are, what you're doing here, starting from your left, moving along. Don't forget to toggle off and toggle off on your microphone. Thank you.
Jeannie Mukherjee, Licensing Officer.
Suresh Kanavadi, agent representing the applicant.
Kandasamy Sivanathan, the shop owner.
Trevor Sherling, representing the Northwood Residents Association.
And Susan Howells, representing Gatehill Residents Association.
Oh, it's me. PC Dave Butler, Police Licensing Officer.
Lovely, thank you very much. If we move on to our agenda now, any apologies for absence?
We've had apologies from Councillor Allen and Councillor Oswald is substituting.
Any declarations of interest in matters came for this meeting? No interest. Okay, all the business is in part one, so we don't need to go into part two, which is a private. Any matters that have been notified in advance or urgent? None. Okay. Right. Ginny.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning to all of you. This hearing is relating to a new premises license application received in respect of a convenience store which is located at 46 Green Lane, Northwood. The application has been submitted by licensing agent Neera Suresh on behalf of Mr. Kandasamy Sivanathan, the applicant. This application, which is annexed as Appendix 1 on page 11 of the pack, is for a license to sell alcohol between 0600 hours and 2300 hours, 7 days a week. Mr. Sivanathan holds a personal license with London Borough of Ealing for the last 12 years. The application is put before the committee due to the receipt of 3 representations, 2 of which have been made by local residents' associations, and 1 has been submitted by an individual resident living in the vicinity of the premises. The reps were put in due to concerns under the Licensing Act objectives, and all reps were received within the consultation period, which ended on 30th of January 2019. The 3 representations are appended in appendices 3, 4, and 5 between pages 29 to 35 of the pack. We have also received a letter of support from a local resident, which is appended as Appendix 6 on page 37. One of the representations addresses the crime and disorder objective, as there are concerns over the sale of alcohol leading to a rise in antisocial behavior and other crime, such as littering and vandalism to nearby properties. Reiterating what I have mentioned in the report, Section 182 of the Home Office's published guidance refers to the police as being the main source of advice on crime and disorder. However, in this case, not only did the Met Police not object to the application, but they have sent a letter of support praising the applicant's attitude during a prior test purchase visit carried out by them. On the day of the test purchase, staff at the premises refused to sell alcohol to plainclothes policemen, as there were no license in place, and this demonstrated the good management competency prevalent at the premises and a clear awareness of licensing objectives from the applicant and his staff. The letter from Met Police is appended as Appendix 7 on page 39 of the pack. The applicant has also provided satisfactory conditions in their operating schedule.
Could you say that? What page are you talking about?
Page 39 of the application pack.
39.
Yes. 39. That's Appendix 7. The applicant has also provided satisfactory conditions in their operating schedule to uphold this objective to the best of their ability. All the three representations refer to the public nuisance objective. The main view is that the hours of operation are excessive for the location and would cause noise disturbance for residents in the surrounding area. On page 4 and 5 of the application pack, I've listed a mix of licensed premises located very close to this particular premises, which have similar operating hours on their premises license. This refutes the argument that the hour is unusual for that area. We are also bound by the council's licensing policy here, which stops us from arbitrarily restricting the licensable hours, and each case is judged on its own merit. There is also no fixed restriction on terminal hours for any particular areas in the borough. Therefore, in the absence of any demonstrable harm, it will be unfair to impose any restrictions on the hours of this particular premises. I have recommended a couple of more conditions on top of what the applicant has offered as further measures to avoid any possible public nuisance arising from the property. These will be found in Appendix 2 of the pack, which is in page 27. Yeah. One of the representations addresses the protection of children from harm objective. The applicant has proposed 3 very important conditions in his operating schedule, which the licensing department think are robust enough for a shop of that size. It's a very tiny shop, and in that location, and sufficient to promote the licensing objective. So I would now invite the subcommittee to determine the application in whether to grant, refuse, or amend it as applied for. Thank you.
Thank you, Ginny. Just a couple of questions, clarifications. Page 7 of our information pack, under officers' recommendations. Could you just tell me, it says the premises is located in Stretched Road, which is not associated with a high degree of antisocial behaviour. Could you... 7.1, sorry, point 7.1. Could you just elaborate on that point, please, in terms of tell me how you've come to that conclusion? Chairman, we have no recorded members' inquiries for this premises, and I've also checked our antisocial behaviour and investigation team's database, and we have not had any complaint about this particular premises in the last 5 years. We have had some noise complaints about a beauty salon next door, but no enforcement action was taken, only because there were some refurbishment works going on in normal working hours. So apart from that, we haven't had any complaints from that area. Thank you. Okay, you also mentioned there were other licensed premises which are open in similar hours. Looking at it, some of them are open later. Is that correct? That's correct, Chairman. Later to the times that the applicant is asking for? Yes, Chairman. Any questions, members? Councillor? No. Just this part is just for just the reports, and then we go into deliberation later on.
Sorry, Chairman. No, as far as the report's concerned, I think it's quite clear.
Thank you. This is not questions. This is for you to now to make your representation, sir. Okay. Either can make it, both can make it. It's up to you.
Thank you, Chair. So,
Just before you start, just go through the actual agenda. What happens is everybody makes their representations. If there are any clarifications or questions on the clarifications that as members require, we will do that. That follows then a discussion led by a subcommittee. I will lead the discussion, in which case we can ask each other questions. Then everybody leaves, we deliberate, and then come to a result. Okay?
thank you, Chair. What I would like to say is I want to give you like a little background for this applicant here. He can also confirm that if you have any questions. He himself been working in a retail industry more than 17 years. In the last 7 years, he's been managing a premises with off license. And now he has taken over this premises as a family business, and one of his brother working with him as well. In terms of his experience, he has a very good experience working in a retail industry. And one of the reasons he has taken over this small premises because he's wanted to run a premises where it is not too much of problems and he can like run peacefully. And then while we put these applications, now we put the hours of, we looked at, as you know, the recent premises, and generally, the shop is going to open until 6 to 11, until, while he got all the product that is available. And the alcohol is going to be a part of the product. So he's like planning to add a lot of other services like grocery and food item and the bill payment services and things like that. So alcohol is going to be part of it. Now, what I would like to address is, we have already, as you heard, like we have provided conditions much more than necessary to promote this licensing objective in this premises. And also one of the things, I think the concerns raised about mainly a public nuisance. And they were talking about littering, vandalism, and antisocial behavior. Chair, what I would like to you to consider is when you look at the type of customers. So if you look at on the map where the premises are situated on page number 41. So where the premises situated, if you go upwards towards the station approach, go up the hill a little bit. So majority of customers coming to his shop are down the road here from Auckland Gate and whether it's the telephone exchange says, all those area people, where there are a lot of elderly people live, and majority of customers are really, elderly and the families, and they come to do their essential shopping. And he has actually spoken to you over the time he's been running a premises over 4 months. He has been, speaking to the customers, and they all, majority of them, really welcoming it. Even some of the customers, the elderly customers, ask him, would you be able to provide like a post office services and things like that, because they found it really hard to walk up the hill to reach a post office on the other side. Chair, what I'm trying to point out is this particular premises is really very supportive to a community, and also for this premises is to continue to support the local community. It's important to have all the product that is available, and alcohol is going to be a small part of the whole premises. It's not like alcohol only shop, and as you can see, there hasn't been any any incident or any antisocial behavior or anything like that reported in that area. I like to invite the committee to consider granting this license to the hours requested, considering all this number of conditions. And also, just like to point out on page 27, we are happy to accept the 8 and 9, the condition that that proposed by the licensing officer. So we are really happy to consider that. I think that also would address those concerns about litter and the other things. And that's all I wanted to say, Chair. I mean, I wasn't, yeah.
Would the applicant like to say anything? You've got the objection?
It's about 7 years anyway. I work as a manager at a petrol station in Stanmore Hill. So I've been working there 15 years with the off license for 7 years. So I have more experience in off licensing and the business. So I'm pleased to offer me this license. That's all I requested. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. On page 21 of your information pack, up the top, you said the store will be managed by applicant who's managed and worked in retail over 6 years. So who is this? Because you're saying the applicant here has been worked for 17 years.
Yeah, that's mentioned mainly on the, I think that mainly we mentioned the alcohol business. Yeah. So about 7 years. Chair, thank you for asking that question. I think what we mentioned is over 7 years of working in the running an off license. So that's what we mentioned by over 6 years. But of course, the retail will be 17 years. But we particularly, mention.
Okay, I get it. Page 27. You say you're happy to follow the additional recommendation conditions. On number 4, the management will maintain the area clean and tidy at all times. Could you give us some information on that and how you're going to do that?
Yeah, just in my hours, I always keep an eye on to the street. If it's even when they're opening hours, if any rubbish, I just picked up always since I started. It's always untidy. Tidy. Sorry. That's all. And then in my opening hours, I'll always keep an eye outside. I'll come and when it's quiet, I just pop in outside, get the fresh air, and pick up all the rubbish and things. Thank you.
Just so I understand what you're saying. So you will manage outside your shop any litter which is deposited, whether it's from your shop or is it just general litter?
Yeah, as in inside the shop as well. I'll keep all the tidy, and outside as well. When I'm quiet, I just pop out.
I'm asking specifically about outside, not inside. I'm just asking about outside.
Yeah, it's outside, sir. Thank you.
Councillors, any clarifications on what's been presented?
Yeah, no, not for me. Thank you, Chairman. Not now that I've heard them speak. Thank you.
Right, okay. We move on to now responsible authorities. That will be the police.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, committee members, everyone. I'm PC Dave Butler, as I mentioned, Police Licensing Officer for West Area Hillingdon. On Tuesday, the 15th of January 2019, at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, myself and a colleague in plain clothes conducted a test purchase visit on Northwood News, Green Lane, Northwood. The premises were previously selling alcohol using temporary event notices, which expired on the 13th of January 2019. 2 days later, myself and my colleague in plainclothes attended the location to do a test purchase. There was no alcohol being displayed, and there was nothing for sale or shown for sale for members of the public. Officers attempted to buy alcohol, noticed that the chiller cabinet was switched off and was empty. We attempted to purchase a bottle of wine, and we were told by the member of staff, the gentleman here today, that he was unable to sell alcohol as they did not have an alcohol licence, and that he was waiting for one to be granted by the local authorities, which was for consideration. This visit satisfied police officers. We were even directed to another local store which was selling alcohol in the vicinity. There was no offences regarding licensing detected or noted at the time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, PC Butler. So, did I hear correctly? You said there was alcohol on display for sale, even though they had no licence. It was Butler wine, you said?
No, my colleague and I attempted to buy a bottle of wine, but we noticed that the cellar cabinet was empty and there was no alcohol on display, and we were refused sale.
Thank you. Members? No? Okay. We'll do ladies first then. Is it Miss Susan Howell?
Thank you. Good morning. As mentioned earlier, I'm speaking on behalf of the Gatehill Residents Association. Our main concern is the prevention of crime and disorder. Now, I note that none of you are councillors from the Northwood Hills ward, so you might not be aware of the dreadful antisocial behaviour which actually occurs there. Northwood Hills Tube is surrounded by numerous late-night alcohol-selling premises. There's been an increase in drugs in the area. There's litter, there's antisocial behaviour, and the residents who have to walk home past groups of menacing youths find the whole lawlessness of the area extremely unpleasant and rather intimidating. There are frequent complaints to the police and to the ward councillors, and the police simply do not have enough resources to eradicate this problem. Northwood is one tube stop or one short bus ride, or it's about just over a mile walk away from Northwood Hills, and we are very concerned that if late-night alcohol licences start opening in Northwood, then this antisocial behaviour may well spread to Northwood, which has been identified as currently being quite quiet and no antisocial behaviour. I'm very pleased that we have PC Butler here this morning, and the residents would seek his assurance that should the antisocial behaviour spread to Northwood from Northwood Hills, will the police actually be able to stretch their resources far enough to come out to Northwood as well, given that they can't actually deal with the problem in Northwood Hills at the moment. My second point is that I note that the only other shop selling alcohol listed in the officer report is Waitrose. All the other establishments listed in the report are actually restaurants and fast food outlets, which is a very different type of clientele, perhaps, that would go there. And whilst Waitrose does have an alcohol licence from 7 in the morning till 11 at night, the shop isn't actually open at those hours. It closes at 5 o'clock on Sundays and 8 or 9 during the week, which I suggest is very different to staying open till 11 o'clock at night. We therefore believe that the proposed hours for the licence are excessive. I should also mention Waitrose has a full-time security guard monitoring the alcohol shelves, and I myself have actually seen the guard chasing and restraining would-be alcohol shoplifters on several occasions. My third point is to do with condition 7 on page 27 of the officer's report. We just don't believe that simply completing a refusals register will actually deter would-be underage alcohol purchase shoppers. Maybe if it could be taken further so that maybe fake IDs can actually be confiscated. I don't know if that's legal, but maybe if they could actually be confiscated, the CCTV which the owner has, maybe he could actually take a photograph of the would-be users, would-be people attempting to buy alcohol, then word would actually get round to potential youths not to try it on in that particular shop. Youth obviously talk to each other, and I think that would be perhaps something you could do. And then my final point is regarding condition 8, which talks about prompt collection of street litter and regular patrols of the area. I'm not quite certain what prompt and regular mean and how you're actually going to enforce that. They're very subjective, prompt and regular. Could it mean hourly, weekly, monthly? Not sure. And whilst the applicant is telling us that he's going to keep the area outside his shop clean, what about the rest of the road? Because people don't tend to down a bottle of wine immediately outside the shop. So the litter, I would suggest, is going to happen not just outside the shop, but much further away as well. And I'm not sure who's actually going to be responsible for clearing that up. So to conclude, the Gatehill Residents Association is very uncomfortable with this proposed licence, given what's happened very close to us. And if you do decide to grant the licence, we ask that you would consider reducing the hours, particularly the late night opening hours of the licence, in order to reduce potential crime and disorder, because that is really when it happens late at night rather than during the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, members? Okay. Mr. Sherlin.
Thank you. The Northwood Residents Association is objecting to the application on the grounds of public nuisance. The nuisance will be from those shopping primarily or solely for alcohol, particularly at either end of the times requested in the application, potentially producing increased noise and disturbance. I note only 3 objections were received, albeit 2 from residents' associations. I would suggest, from my experience, that whilst the blue signs in the window will have complied with the necessary requirements, even those living close by may not realise what they were for. I also note the newspaper notification was in the Harrow Times, which is not that close to Northwood. Again, that might well comply as well, but there should not be a presumption of tacit approval to the application by the people living close by. The applicant is proposing to open for the sale of alcohol 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. These hours would match the one-stop shop, and this could therefore increase the number of shoppers solely looking for alcohol during the early and late hours in particular. As Northwood already has one shop that is open for these extended hours, the objection is against the second shop selling alcohol at each end of the day to be consumed off-site, and so perhaps on the pavement outside, potentially in groups, which would be intimidating and noisy. I have experienced that intimidating behaviour myself, close to the subject property, when returning from Northwood Station at about 10 p.m. one night. A woman, clearly the worse for drink, was crossing the road and shouting at a man who remained on the other side of the road. The man was holding a bottle and was standing in a shop front door recess and was shouting back. It made me feel uneasy, and whilst that experience was bad enough, the more late-night alcohol on sale, the bigger the risk of intimidation by drinkers in the street. And just for the record, I did not report that incident to the police. The papers list several restaurants in Northwood. There the alcohol is consumed on the premises and is part of the meal experience and not the sole purchase. And they have an A3 planning use. There's also the public house almost opposite, which will have an A4 planning use. Both are different to extending the sale of alcohol to an A1 use shop to be consumed off-site. This extension to an A1 use does not require planning consent, and so only the licensing committee can limit the potential nuisance. So the concern of the NRA relates to the adverse cumulative impact on Northwood of a second A1 unit selling alcohol as a standalone purchase during unsociable hours. And to reduce that impact, what we request is to limit the hours for the sale of alcohol to not before 7:30 a.m. nor after 9 p.m. Monday to Saturday, nor after 5 p.m. on Sunday, which will stop the standalone sales during the most unsociable hours, but still allow the sale of alcohol during the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sherlin. Any questions, members? No? Okay. Right, we move on to the discussion stage now. I will lead this discussion first of all. To Mr. Sivanathan. Much has been made about this litter pick. Could you tell me how many staff you will be employing in your shop and what times?
At the moment, it's myself and my brother. But if it's go through the licensing, then I'll have to get a couple more staff.
Okay, and what time do you propose for deliveries? Unloading and loading of deliveries. Do you have I believe there is something in the pack, but if you could tell me and the committee, what time do you propose your deliveries to take place?
Delivery from my shop?
To get goods in.
Like from the wholesale.
Okay. That depends, so it's I've got a parking on my alleyways to park.
I just need to know time, sir. What times are you proposed to have delivery? Well, should the question be, are you going to get deliveries coming to your shop with lorries or?
No, sir.
So how are you going to get your goods?
Okay, myself, my car.
Okay, what time are you proposing to load, unload goods from your shop?
Is it any time in the days?
I need to have a window of when you're going to do it, sir.
It's going to be lunchtime, sir. 12 o'clock, between 12 and 1.
We mentioned in the conditions about CCTV cameras. Have you already got CCTV cameras functioning in the premises?
Yes, sir, but it's not enough. I had to upgrade it.
Right, okay, because obviously the committee, then, we do have various conditions that we require. So whatever the conditions are, then that may progress to that. There was a mention, Ginny, there was a mention of a one-stop shop. Could you just, I don't see on the paperwork, could you tell us a bit about?
Chairman, the one-stop shop is further down the hill, so closer to the St. Helens School. I have only mentioned the shops on this side of the station. So there are quite a few licensed premises on the other side of the station, so which is further up the hill.
Yeah, I do know the area. I do go to a very famous I do go to a very famous ice cream shop there for the kids, so I do know the area. So could you tell me how many more premises there are and what the opening hours are?
Chairman, I'll have to look that up. I haven't. I'll have to make a list of the shops on the other side of the up the hill.
Okay, maybe the Mr. Shirley or Miss Howes.
The one-stop shop is in Maxwell Road, so you just go up.
Yeah, I know where it is. Yeah, I've got it.
So it's this side of the station. That's open for the hours in the application. Other than that, it is.
So just to clarify, what the hours are we talking about now? Is it going to be open from 6 to 11 p.m.?
Those are the hours that the one-stop shop has got. Waitrose is the other shop that sells alcohol. That's the retailers. Is the other shop that sells alcohol. Their hours that they actually open are less. The hours that I've asked for are pretty much the hours that Waitrose will be open for.
Members, any questions?
Thank you, Chairman. Just one. Challenge 25, do you know what that is?
Challenge 25? Yes. If anyone buying under 25, I can ask them to show the IDs. If it's over 18, if there's no IDs, I can't sell any alcohol. If I doubt it, I can challenge them.
Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Kaufman.
Could I ask the applicant how he proposes to do staff training? Whilst you've only got one member of staff at this stage, and you were saying that you intend to get more as business gets better, what type of training would you do based on sort of the licensing sort of regulations, etc.?
Okay.
So you have the same training material from your.
Yeah, just I had to follow the policy. I mean, the alcoholic law. What I was been trained.
On that.
Yeah, just to support that, I think we will be supplying with him like a training materials that covers all the licensing objectives. And he already have an experience. I think he is, not able to articulate it right now. But you want to say like what kind of training, that normally you give training. What is the basic things you go through, like, not selling to underage?
Not selling underage, and challenge 25. and proxy buyer.
Proxy sales.
Yeah, proxy sales.
Training, yeah.
And it's like drunk persons if he comes, something like that.
What other things? All the incident record work, all those things.
Yes. If you refuse sales, I can keep a books to log. I mean the refuse sales. I can record it.
Yeah, and then the material we're going to supply to go through, all the staff will have staff training programs, which we normally supply to them, so they will use that.
Okay, I still think this actual condition needs to be a bit more robust, Chairman.
Any more questions? Just on that, so am I to understand, is the committee to understand that your training regime which you are proposing on page 21, which says point 4 on point E of the protection of children from harm, are you going to be employing a external company to provide this training? Now, if you don't understand what I'm saying, please ask, and I'll do it in another way. But be clear in what we are asking. And what you are saying now, I'm putting in very basic language now, what you are saying is what we consider, along with what we have in front of us, what we have from other people. What you are saying will determine this application. So if you are not sure, please ask. Yeah, we must be exactly sure in our minds on what you are saying. Okay, so the question was, on page 21, E, the protection of children from harm, point 4, this is under your submission, yeah, will you be employing an external company to provide this training? It's a simple yes or no. Let me just give you that much guidance. You can do it in your language, it's not a problem.
Okay. That's all right.
Okay, I'll just follow this training method, and I can train to my staff.
Right. I'll if I'm speaking, please switch your speaker off here. So I'll ask for the final time. Yeah. Are you going to be? It's just yes or no, please. Are you going to be employing an external company, to provide your training for your staff?
Yes, sir.
Just any other questions? Right. Just before we go for the closing remarks, I just want legal to come across with explaining something called, which is the review process. I think it's important that we do understand what that is.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, so we're here today to establish if the application for the premises licence should be granted. And what is key here is that the subcommittee want to ensure that the licensing objectives are going to be preserved. The licensing objectives is prevention of crime and disorder, prevention of public nuisance, protection of children from harm, and the public safety. So the evidence that is given here today is to establish if those licensing objectives can be preserved and enshrined and promoted. If there's any concern from what is being presented in this hearing today, then the subcommittee have the power to decide if conditions should be attached to the premises licence, so if it should be granted plainly, or if it should be granted with conditions attached to help the business run with those conditions to be put in place to protect the public's interest and make sure those licensing objectives are upheld. Now, should that be the case, and the licence is granted or granted with conditions, and you're performing to the public, running at the operating hours, if there is concern from anybody in the community that that the premises licence is not being, if there's any, the licensing objectives has been threatened and that premises licence has not been run as it is expected to, then the review process is a protection for the community where an application can be made to the licensing authority. This authority here, from members of the public, the licensing authority itself as a responsible authority, the police being a responsible authority. Even within the council, there's departments such as social services, the environmental team. Basically, they can submit an application just to have the licence reviewed. So if it's granted, we come back, we can review the application. Now, that said, the licensing authority has got the law to comply with. That's the Licensing Act 2003. It has also the Secretary of State guidance, which is a Section 182 guidance of what the licensing authority should be considering with applications for review that are submitted, and the Section 5 licensing policy here, and also the licensing authority has a licensing committee, and they also have input in deciding if the licensing should be reviewed. Now, if an application is made by anybody, there's a stringent policy that has to be complied with deciding if the application has merit. If it has merit, then it's transferred to the licensing committee to vet it and decide if a hearing should be put in place, and then we come back here to review the licence. However, if it's decided that there's no merit, then the licensing authority has power to weed out the application. If they decide that it has no relevance to the licensing objective, or that it's frivolous, this is words taken from the actual statute. If it's frivolous, or it's vexatious, or it's repetitive, like submissions that have been made here today, repetitive is a 12-month window, then they have got the ability to reject the application, given that there's no, they haven't found anything to review the premises licence. So basically, what I'm saying is that the licensing authority hasn't got any powers to go after, to look at a premises licence on the what-ifs or possibilities, or without any factual supporting evidence. I mean, what has been put here today is not. It's a.
We'll go to that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Now you know why Kerry works for legal. Yeah. Okay. We can. I think it was mainly the review process I wanted to do clarification on, and we can do that in the next day. So if you don't mind, I want to move now on to the closing remarks from each party. Now, I would like a brief closing remark from everybody. So we start off first of all with Ginny.
Thank you, Chairman. Like I said, like in the absence of any demonstrable harm, it's difficult to put in any conditions or restrict the hours at the moment. So, I would invite the subcommittee to decide on the application. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. PC Dave Butler.
Just to say, Mr. Chairman, I have no further evidence with regard to any of the licensing objectives, any infringements, including antisocial behaviour in that area. I have consulted with the local police officer, PC Dave Bell, and we have no further evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Howells.
Hi, thank you. It's obviously not possible to actually prove that there's been antisocial behaviour before the licence is actually in existence. You can't prove something which isn't there yet. However, I hope you will consider what's happening next door in Northwood Hills, and consider reducing the hours. Maybe you could even look at increasing the licensing hours later on, once the applicant's up and running and got things sorted. But I hope you don't, just dismiss what's happening in Northwood Hills because it isn't Northwood.
Mr. Shirley.
Yes, thank you. No, so similarly, what we're looking for is the reduction in the hours that the licence can operate from, so that the most unsociable hours are taken out, and hence the risk of increases in rowdyism being avoided.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're now going to move to deliberate. If you'd like to... Oh, sorry. That's why it's there. The licence holder.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sorry, the applicant.
Yeah,
Got
thank
me
you.
going now.
Yeah, I think we totally respect your concerns. I think mainly what I hear, like the concerns here are public nuisance. But as you can see, the nearby premises, late night refreshment, all those things can contribute to public nuisance, because if you think about a takeaway, there are a number of people will be coming and going out, litter, noise, smells, that kind of things. We're talking about public nuisance, even the antisocial behavior. So considering that this particular premises, closing at 11 p.m., we don't see how it's going to contribute to the public nuisance. As the customers is going to come in, probably, it's about 10 customers in 1 hour. So they come in and they shop and they go. And also what I would like to, the customers are there really, I've been talking to him about the customer base. They are like good customers, like, elderly and families and things like that. And also you can see it's a small little premises, and he has good experience managing a petrol station, which is highly demanding, in terms of not just alcohol, all the other stuff. So that's what I want the committee to consider, and granting the license as it is. Thank you so much.
Anything to say? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, we're now going to move into the deliberation stage. So if you'd like to leave the room, take all your bags and everything, all electronic devices with you as well, please. And then we'll call you back when we reach the decision. Thank you.